Sir Ed Davey, thank you for joining us today on GBNews. Is it time to ban politicians from betting on politics?
I really think we need to review the whole of gambling regulation with respect to politics. And I really hope after the election, that's what the new government and Parliament gets behind. There's got to be much greater transparency and clarification about what is possible and what's not possible. I think people are confused, except in this particular case. I don't think there's any black and white in this particular case. People literally went
case, the Conservative case.
The Conservative case. People appear to. I mean, let's see the Gambling Commission's inquiry. But from what we hear from the media and elsewhere, people went into a room in number 10, were told the date of the general election, then went out of that room and placed a bet on it.
So we don't know any of that.
I made it clear that that's what we appear. And do you know what? I think people know that if you place a bet and you know the outcome of that, that is just clearly wrong.
But you've bet before on politics.
Well, yeah, I've placed the odd bet. I haven't bet on this election.
No.
Frankly, I've been to...
But you bet on election results in the past when you were an MP?
Well, very few. I've never bet on myself. But what I'd like is this review in gambling regulations on politics, so we can clarify that sort of thing. You know, there's this case of this Labour candidate who bet on himself losing. I think he was wrong. I've never bet on myself, but there may be candidates in the past, maybe candidates this election who've done similar to him. And what Liberal Democrats want to do is make sure that all the rules around that are completely clarified.
Yeah.
We'll only do that if we have a full review of the regulation on gambling in politics. Although, just to be clear, what happened in 10 Downing Street, as far as it appears, goes beyond that review. That was clearly wrong. If you bet on something and you know the outcome, that is wrong.
Okay. Looking at your whole campaign, you've had great fun. We last saw you at Thorpe Park. What do you think Subpostmasters make of you clowning around?
Well, listen, my heart's gone out to Subpostmasters about what's happened with the worst miscarriage of justice in British history over Horizon. And I've said sorry for the mistakes I made when I was a minister, when I didn't see Alan Bates straight away. And then when I did see him as the first minister to see him, putting his case to the Post Office and not seeing through the lies that they told to me, other ministers, Subpostmasters, and to the courts. So I hope they understand that. I'm campaigning now both for constituents of mine who are Subpostmasters who were involved in this. I had a really, really tough time. I'm campaigning for compensation for all Subpostmasters who are affected, far more generous, far more quickly. And I supported this inquiry, which is so important to get to the bottom of it. So I hope they've heard that. What I would say on terms of the stunts, if you like, is that's in my role as leader of the party to make sure people both notice what we're doing and also every time linking something quite serious. So I think in politics, particularly when people are so disillusioned, that they don't want politicians to take themselves too seriously, but they do want politicians to address their serious problems. And when I came down that slide in Somerset, it was fun, I agree, but we're releasing our policy on mental health for children and young people.
There's no link between the two. It's just merely you're getting a nice pitch.
Well, I think it was actually, because, outdoor activity, fun with families, that's great for mental health. But what we were saying was, the social media companies, the social media giants, they should pay more in what we call digital services tax. That should fund a full-time mental health professional in every primary and secondary school. So we linked that to that stunt, just in the way we linked the stunt when I fell off that paddleboard, once intentionally, 4 times by mistake, into Lake Windermere. That was about sewage. The sewage scandal.
Understood.
So we're trying to link the two.
Okay. Here's your manifesto. We're there to cover the launch of it. What's the ideological thread running through this? It strikes me that you are different things in different parts of the country. You're kind of attacking the Tories, attacking Labour, wherever you are. I mean, if you define liberalism in a tweet, how would you for us?
Well, we want a fair deal. That's what it's called on the manifesto. A fair deal, whether it's on the health service, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on things like the environment. But liberalism, if you were wanting to ask me for the grand analysis, I think we want to empower people to be the best they can. So we want them to have good health services. So that's not getting in the way of working and being the best they can. We want to make sure children have the best start in life. That's empowering people, making sure they have the chance, that the businesses have the chance to thrive. That's empowering people. But we also, and this may be different from some of the parties, we want to hold the already powerful to account. People, I think, are fed up of some big business, not all, but some, like the water companies, getting away with pumping their filthy sewage, or some of
the post office.
Well, the post office, indeed. The post office executives need to be held to account too. I'm very much in favour of that. And what I'd also say is, the scandals of the post office, you could link them to the scandals with respect to contaminated blood, to Hillsborough, where people lied. And we've got to hold those people to account better. We need to change the system. And that's one thing that Liberal Democrats are very different from others. We want to change the system, not just the electoral system, but we want to make sure that people who lie get found out.
And it's about local champions, you're saying here, don't you? Because you don't want to be Prime Minister. Well, you want to be, but you can't be. Or will you be?
Well, listen, when I took over the Liberal Democrats, we'd had 3 poor elections. That's beyond that.
Last leader thought you were Prime Minister.
And so I'm focusing on where I think we can win, and we can win in many seats.
Okay.
And to be honest, I'm really quite excited about this election. I'm very grateful to those people who were thinking of voting Labour and Green, but realise that they're in an area like here in Chelmsford where they can't win, and only the Liberal Democrats can beat the Conservatives. And Chris, this is so different from other elections. We're hearing from people who've always voted Conservative. Their whole families have always voted Conservative.
Tory seat, 17,000 majority here in Chelmsford.
And they're saying they're not going to do it this time. Now, some of them might not vote, might go back to Tories eventually, might vote Reform. A lot of them are voting Liberal Democrat, and I'm very grateful for them. And I want to, in the days that remain, I want to explain how health policies are relevant to them and their families, our care policies are relevant to them and their families, whether it's on personal care, whether it's on cancer. I just hope those people who have always voted Tory, Conservative, give us a chance.
Just some quick questions about the policies here. Page 122 in your policy document, you want to rejoin the EU single market. When and what's after that? The customs union too?
Probably not in this coming Parliament, to be honest. The relationship between the UK and Europe has been so badly
by 2035?
It's impossible to put a date on it. Here's why. We've got to rebuild that relationship. The Conservatives have been in conflict with our European partners, which is quite sad. They've been our allies, they're our friends, they're our nearest neighbours. And when we're in an insecure world, when Putin is invading Ukraine, when you've got things like illegal criminal gangs operating globally with cybercrime and human trafficking, you have to work internationally. So we want to rebuild that relationship to keep people in our country safer and more prosperous, and that will take some time.
In your lifetime, do you want to see Britain back in the EU?
Listen, because you've got a lot of work to do to even be able to contemplate something like that,
You wouldn't even get that far.
Listen, I'll tell you one thing we can do. Let me be frank with you. I think we need a trade deal, and we need a trade deal really quickly. Our economy is being hurt by the awful trade deal the Conservatives concluded with our European partners. Our farmers are being hit, our fishermen are being hit, our exporters and importers are being hit. Actually, people are being hit by high prices in the shops. So we've got to have a trade deal. It can't be the single market. I've talked to European politicians. That's not on the table. What we can do, though, is a much better trade deal, mutually beneficial. And I think that would really help revive our economy, get the growth we need, and help bear down inflation too.